does a star employee, someone breaking records and thriving, suddenly lose all motivation and fail when they're placed under a new manager? Standard management theory usually blames the individual. We assume they lost their drive or grew complacent. But the answer may lie in the invisible forces of the room they just walked into. Kurt Lewin first recognized this dynamic while serving in the trenches of World War I. As an artilleryman, he observed how the brutal, terrifying constraints of the battlefield could completely dictate human action, overriding a person's normal character. After the war, Lewin returned to Berlin to study Gestalt psychology, which emphasizes the whole of a situation over its isolated parts. This holistic worldview was solidified in 1933, when the rise of Nazi Germany forced him to flee his home. These experiences convinced Lewin that our surroundings hold more power over us than our own personalities. He argued that to understand a person, you have to look at the environment pressing in on them. Lewin wanted to bring the same mathematical rigor to psychology that he saw in the world of physics. This led him to develop field theory. At its heart is a simple formula: B equals F of P, E. This means behavior is a function of the person and their specific environment interacting in the moment. This topological map shows what Lewin called the life space, a person's entire psychological reality right now. Within these irregular regions, invisible driving and restraining forces constantly collide. These vectors are the pressures that move us, like the need for recognition or social pressure. In Lewin's view, behavior is a dynamic equilibrium between these forces. If you want to change how a person acts, his theory suggests you must first change the field they inhabit. In the late 1930s at the University of Iowa, Lewin put this theory to the test. He assigned adult leaders with radically different styles to groups of children to see how their leadership fields would dictate the group's behavior. First was the autocratic style. The leader dictated every specific action and decision, leaving no room for the children to provide input. The children were productive, but only while the leader was watching. The moment they were left alone, the field of high tension and underlying hostility they had created resulted in an immediate work stoppage. Second was the laissez-faire style. This leader was entirely hands-off, providing no structure or guidance at all. Without any boundaries to shape the psychological field, the group descended into chaos. They produced very little work and experienced constant frustration. The final style was democratic. The leader provided a clear framework, but actively included the children in making decisions. This group was the most successful. They were highly productive, took ownership of their tasks, and maintained their momentum even when the leader left the room. The data showed that while autocracy forced a fragile productivity, it also triggered a constant undercurrent of rebellion. By contrast, the democratic style created a field where group potential and individual enjoyment reached their highest levels. If democracy optimizes the field, the question becomes how to transition a rigid, underperforming team into this new state. Consider a company mandating a return to the office. Employees experience an approach avoidance conflict. They want their salaries, but they want to avoid the stress of a commute. Lewin developed a 3-stage blueprint for resolving these conflicts: unfreeze, change, and refreeze. During the unfreeze phase, leaders must dismantle restraining forces, like long commutes, communicating the why behind the shift. This destabilizes the quasi-stationary equilibrium, making groups open to new ways of working. In the change phase, the leader moves swiftly, gathering democratic input to help the team navigate this fluid, restructured space. Finally, the refreeze phase cements the new behavior. Through positive reinforcement, the new psychological field stabilizes into a permanent, thriving routine. This method succeeds by melting the existing equilibrium to forge a new one, rather than trying to force change against solid resistance. Lewin's physics of behavior redefines the leader's objective. Instead of commanding obedience, a leader must focus on engineering the invisible forces of the environment. Ultimately, when the psychological field is built correctly,
the desirable behavior follows as a natural and inevitable consequence.